Welcome back, loyal fight fans, to Boxing. Eat that shit up. I am your humble host, Tummy Tom O'Neill, the human body snatcher, and I am back at it. Please hit that subscribe button, please hit that thumbs up button, and please tell a friend, especially if you know a friend who enjoys combat sports. They'd probably enjoy watching this. So, I got the Charlo Castano score sheet right here. I watched the fight like fucking 3 different times. I've watched this fight back. So basically, I had, as most people, I had Castano winning, but I have it a pretty close fight. I scored it 115, 113. I gave the first round to Castano. I mean, here's the other thing. I'll break this down a little bit, but I think there shouldn't be so much controversy with this fight, honestly. Because I'll just go through it real quick. I give Castano the first round, Charlo the second round. These are all just 10-9 rounds. Then I give Castano the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, and then I give Charlo the seventh. I mean, no, both the seventh and the eighth rounds, even that fifth round is kind of close rounds. But that's just how I scored it for that. For the eighth round, I did give it to Castano for the 9th, Charlo for the 10th, 11th, and 12th, the final 3 rounds of the fight. So that makes the score 115, 113 Castano, who I do believe, won the fight. That's as most people, think happened. But I just, my thing to touch on with this is that I think this is a pretty simple fight, really, to score. I've watched this several times. There's a couple close rounds, but right off the bat, I think boxing fans need to stop crying robbery. That's what needs to happen, because there's so many times that we've seen robberies. If you remember, for God's sakes, if you remember Pernell Whitaker, versus Julio Cesar Chavez, that's a robbery, right? That's a robbery. And I mean, there's a million to name off. That boxing does it all the time. But my thing is, I do think Castano won the fight here, but everybody has a tendency to just cry robbery now all the time. I mean, I think this was a close fight. Even though I scored it for him, I would maybe be a little mad if they said Charlo won, but they didn't even say Charlo won. They scored it a draw. And I think it just throws a lot of people off. That 117, 111 scorecard is absolutely horrible. That's a horrible. I think the thing is that rightfully so, that scorecard from that judge really just threw people off. It threw me off, and there's no defending it. When you see a scorecard like that, that's the problem in boxing. Because it literally shows you. I'll tell you what it shows. It's not, people say incompetence. I truly believe that it's not, and they don't, because these judges don't do this all the time. They don't score. You can't be an Adelaide Bird or something and score, fights horribly on a constant basis. So this is what this is for whatever reason. I won't pretend to know whether it's money, bribery, things from a promoter. I don't know what it is, but I will guarantee you that for whatever reason, when you see scorecards like this, where it's not you disagree with it, it's that no person in the world would see a scorecard like this and agree with it. No person in the world. So you can't make an argument for it. And when that happens, in boxing, I really believe that it's the judge writing their damn scorecard out before they even watch the fight. I think, or they know how they're going to score it, and then they just bullshit the rounds. You catch judges all the time now, looking down at their phones. Excuse me. They're not watching the fight, and that's what the scorecard says. Not that you did. It's not, incompetence would mean that you don't know what you're looking at. But these judges score fights for decades. They're all older white guys, that have been scoring boxing forever. They don't bring in fresh young faces for judging. It's all these guys that have judged forever. and they don't have a history of incompetence, and then they have a scorecard like this, where they'll come back and then they'll score a fight more normally, or close to how you would think a fight should be scored the next time. So I don't know, what the benefit of it is for them, or why they're doing it, but incompetence would imply that you don't know what you're looking at, and then they just are, horrible scores all the time, and that's not the case. So it's really quite a mystery how you get scorecards like that. But I don't think, again, that we should keep crying robbery. In this fight, for instance, I think, though it was pretty close, I think it was pretty easy to score. Like I said, I think the only swing rounds that you can talk about in this fight are, I'll even throw out 5. I don't even think that's Castano. I don't even think that's that close. I'd say 7 and 8. I'd say that the two only rounds in this 12-round fight, because you have a lot of fights where every round's close. I'd say the only 2 rounds that are up for debate, in this fight is round 7 and round 8. And because I think anybody would agree, round 1 you might throw in, but that's just because of lack of activity. They're just fresh getting in there, and they're trying to feel each other out a bit. So round 1 only close for the sense of that. But I mean, I give that to Castano. I think if you know to score boxing, you're scoring on the jabs, even when there's not much happening, then you know why Castano should get the first round. The second round, that's a big Charlo round, right? That's where he hurts Castano. He wobbles him. He catches him with a beautiful counter, coming in on his way in. And round 3, that's a heavy Castano round. Castano catches him again, hits him with the shot that really hurts Charlo. So those are dominant rounds, one after the other for Charlo Castano. Round 1 pretty easy. Then round 4, even 5 and 6. These are easy Castano rounds. Nobody's getting wobbled now, and they're both falling more into the rhythm of the fight. But they're just, again, they're pretty easy, straightforward rounds to score for Castano. Then you have the 7 and 8 rounds where, it's kind of dicey. But it's not as if, I went either way with both of these. I gave 1 apiece for these because I gave, I think Charlo, I gave him the 7th round. And then the 8th round I gave to Castano. Now the 9th round, again, not that hard to judge. That's Castano all day. And the 10th, 11th, and 12th are very easy. That's Charlo all day long. And my kind of, now this fight went kind of the way that I had, I'm not gonna say predicted, because I thought that Charlo would win. But I even if it was something like this where they'd kind of arguably give Charlo the fight, like I told you, this was not a walk in the park for Charlo. You guys don't know who Brian Castano is. That's not my fault. I told you guys, Brian Castano he's just when you have guys like that where their output is so high, it's hard to look good against them. It's really hard to look good against them, even if you're, to Charlo's credit, I talked about this is the eye test. Even professional boxers, even judges, when you judge a fight, it is just kind of like for you or I that are looking at a fight. When you have a guy who's very aggressive, right, all the time, coming forward, and he throws, a ton of punches every round, it's hard to look good against them unless you hurt them, with a good, a clean counter or something. You even if you're doing all right in the fight, just to the aesthetics effect of things, to the eyes of your average fan, and even a lot of judges, they're just gonna go, wow, this guy's walking the other guy down. This guy's got way more output, and then they see him throwing these, just like Castano in this fight, throwing these really hard shots. And to Charlo's credit, not all these shots are landing, and that's obvious that he blocks some, but even ones that you have to go back and look again, even ones that appeared that they weren't, he just blocked that, like where it kind of move his head. You go back, you watch the fight, I talked about this, he's very good about, rolling with his punches. He's got decent head movement, but he really don't use head movement. He uses, his rolling with the shots, either just straight up blocking them or getting a bit of the glove in there and just rolling with the punches, so it kind of takes the effect off of them. A lot of these are really blocked. But it is the work rate of Castano, and then the lack of work rate for Charlo. And I just think, that's what I talked about, is that it's not just with this fight. We're going to have a problem. We're going to probably see a problem here, occurring with Jermell Charlo, with not being active enough, just not throwing enough punches. Because he's going to end up, he kind of should have lost this fight. But again, I don't think that we should be crying robbery. I mean, I scored the damn thing 115, 114. They gave the fight a draw, so that means if you just take off any one of these rounds for Castano, then I would have scored it a draw. So that's not a robbery. That's just a close fight, and you can't be that angry about the results. Fascinating note here. As I said, I put Jermell Charlo in my parlay on the MyBookie to win as a part of a bigger parlay. I got all the other fights, and then I saw that this one was a draw, and I went, oh shit, that's it for that. And, funny little thing happened. They gave me the money anyway. I don't know. It was scored a draw, and then they paid me anyway. So I'm thankful to that. Shout out to them. But yeah, this is a close fight, so you can't cry. And to Charlo's credit, as I showed here, when Castano, really actually, had a hard hitting shot that hurt Jermell Charlo, is over here in round 3. And although he won a lot of these other rounds, like most of the rounds, and that's what people think, that's his only time that and you can't argue otherwise, there's no debate about it. That's the only time that he hurt Jermell Charlo, with one good shot out of all these rounds. And then you have Charlo, though, who hurt Brian Castano in round 2, right? And hurt Brian Castano in round 10, and then had an absolutely epic round 11 where he should have fought the whole fight like that. Look at, lo and behold, he's throwing more punches and he's able to land more. I mean, it's just, because he doesn't have a cardio issue or anything. He's just in love with the power and the perfectly placed counter, and that's great because it does work for him. But again, as we talked about, Charlo had lost that first Tony Harrison fight, and look at it, it's a lack of activity. It's not like he's getting outclassed. He's losing these fights himself because he's not doing enough. And then when you had the rematch with Tony Harrison, he ends up, getting him out of there. So that's the best way to win, so that is impressive. And there's nothing to take away from that. But it is interesting that, even that is a win, where he KO'd guy. But if you look at the fight, he's hands down. I mean, Tony Harrison's way more aggressive all throughout, even that second fight. And so it's not for nothing. He that's a good way to get the win, is to get the guy out of there. But he's not. He was even losing that fight until it happened. And I think that would be the story of this fight. And a lot of people thought, well, but then one of these times he's gonna just KO him. But Brian Castano is a tough dude. And those kind of fighters that are like him, like Sean Porter, those kind of fighters that fight like that are just really high, and so their stamina is incredible because they're used to putting out a really high output every round, and their come forward style means that they work on their defense. Obviously, they're not stupid in there, but any kind of come forward, Mayweather, the king of head movement, the king of defense. If he happened to keep that come forward style as he had earlier in his career, before all the defensive changes really, and had that that's your perfect fighter. So you got to find a little bit of a middle ground there. It's good that he knows what he is, because he's a heavy-handed counterpuncher. That's a style of boxing. So it's good he knows what he is and what he's good at. But all I'm saying is, it really wouldn't kill him to pump the jab out there more. That's all. Keep the same, pump the jab out there a bit, because that's what you need to do when what you want to actually be effective shots are few and far between. Then you can keep that strategy, because you can go for that, but you need to have a little bit of a backup, because you can't just throw rounds away, But that being said, I thought this was a really good fight. They're talking about a rematch. I will say that if you have the rematch, I'm giving that to Charlo, because I think that he'll know what changes to make now. Or he better, but I think he will. I think he has all the skills, all the tools to win this fight, because I think he's incredibly talented. But I do think that he just knows, he has to know now. I got to have a better output. I just got to go for it more, because he'll counter, but listen, even when he counters somebody, his follow-up, his barrage of punches while he's coming forward are well put together. He knows how to put the shots together real well, and being heavy-handed. So it's just not all the time. You don't change your way that you fight, but if you're more stay back and wait and try to counter guy, you just need to have in your back pocket, okay, that's my plan, but I'm gonna use my jab as well, just to put something in my back pocket, in case I can't get the guy out of there. I'm not just throwing 3 punches around, and that's all I'm saying. So in the rematch, I think that Charlo will know what to do there. All right, you guys. Well, we'll keep this one as a short one. There is not too much boxing on this weekend. I'll touch on this really fast. There is the UFC event, and you have Cody Garbrandt versus TJ Dillashaw, and that's a really good fight. It's a big test for TJ Dillashaw, because he's great, but he's been on suspension and out of the octagon for 2 years now. So I think it's a big test for him, and honestly, I would like to see TJ win. Really, I don't really care that he whatever used EPO. I think it's not that I don't care at all. It's just that a lot of you're fooling yourself. You think that all these other guys don't do things. It's a try or die kind of sport. So I don't really care about that, and I just think the guy's like a savage, and I was sad for him in losing the Cejudo fight. But yeah, that should be a good fight. I will be going probably with got a cat over here. We will be probably going with Corey Sandhagen over TJ Dillashaw, and then I'm gonna put Soraya Eubanks as well. I think she's just a lock to throw on a parlay. I don't know if I'll put the Sandhagen fight, but you also got a Joe Joyce fighting in boxing this weekend. So like I said, not much going on, but I'm picking Joe Joyce, I'm picking Soraya Eubanks, and I might throw Corey Sandhagen on there as well for this week. And you don't get a lot of plus money with those heavier favorites, but all you got to do is put a bit more money, because besides the TJ Corey fight, Soraya Eubanks and Joe Joyce are a lock for sure, 100%. So until next time, stay loyal, fight fans. We out.